The Nation of Islam, led by Elijah Muhammad, one of the largest and most progressive black institutions in American history, is known for some of the most controversial black leaders in America because of their so-called anti-America, anti-white, and anti-Semitic speech. But the most controversial of all is a man by the name of W.D. Farad Muhammad, a man who appeared to be white and believed to be God in person by Elijah Muhammad and his followers. Elijah Muhammad taught his followers that God is man and not just spirit, using biblical references stating that man was created in the image and likeness of God, and we must worship him in spirit and in truth. Also quoting Bible when it says that the Word was God and the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst men. He goes on to give several more instances in the Bible where God appeared as a man. Moses spake face to face with the Lord as a man speaketh to his friend. Also, Abraham met the Lord and two angels in the plains of Mamre. And in the book of Habakkuk, an unfamiliar book of the Bible, it states that God came from Teman, a person and a place on earth, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, a place on earth. As well, it must be noted that the Bible attributes human characteristics to God, saying that he has hands, feet, a face, and emotions. Elijah goes on to state that God is man, and we just cannot make him other than man unless we make him an inferior one. For man's intelligence has no equal in other than man. His wisdom is infinite, capable of accomplishing all that his brain can conceive. A spirit is subjected to us, and not we to the spirit. W.D. Farad Muhammad was born on February 26, 1877, to a black father named Alfonso, who was from the circle of God scientists known in the Bible as the 24 Elders in the book of Revelations. Knowing the signs of the times, Alfonso set out to make a child who would redeem the lost sheep and return them to their rightful place. Knowing that he would have to search the world for the lost sheep, he decided to make him in the likeness of sinful flesh, appearing like the man of sin. His appearance like a disguise would allow him to move through the world undetected, like a thief in the night. So he went into the Caucasus Mountains to find a woman to mother his son. He chose a white woman named Babaji. The cleansing of Babaji in preparation to birth his son is hinted at in the book of Luke, chapter 8, verse 2. He states that his first attempt was a miss as he made a girl child. He hit the mark the second time and made his son. Alfonso, being from amongst the circle of gods, was able to gather the knowledge of the previous gods before him, all the way back to the beginning of time. Arming his son with this wisdom, he was willing to send his only begotten son into the world, that he might seek and save that which was lost. W.D. Farad Muhammad made himself known in July 1930 in an East Side Detroit neighborhood known as the Black Bottom. Although he had arrived in America some 20 years earlier, he made himself of no reputation, as written in Philippians chapter 2, verse 7. He presented himself as a salesman of fine silks made by our sisters and brothers in the East. As he was a handsome man and appeared white, the people were attracted to him and wanted to know more about their sisters and brothers in the East. He began to teach that the black man was the original man, first on the planet, direct descendants of the creator of the heavens and the earth. And despite having a white mother, he taught that the white man, or Kavi, as he called them, is the devil and had enslaved and destroyed them. After being introduced to W.D. Farad Muhammad by his wife Clara, Elijah, being the son of a Baptist preacher and knowing the Bible, immediately recognized W.D. Farad as being the one the world had been waiting for. He instructed Elijah not to speak of him in that way, for it was not time. He would later admit that he was indeed the one the world had been waiting for. Giving his name as Wallace Farad Muhammad, explaining that the name Farad is a name not mentioned in Bible or Holy Quran, and although those are good names and belong to him, Farad is an independent name. Mr. W.D. Farad Muhammad told Elijah that he had traveled the world over, and that he had visited North America 20 years before making himself known to us, his people, whom he came for. He had visited the Isles of the Pacific, Japan, China, Canada, Alaska, the North Pole, India, Pakistan, all of the Near East, and Africa. He had studied the wildlife in the jungles of Africa and learned the language of the birds. He could speak 16 languages and write 10 of them. He visited every inhabited place on Earth and had pictured and extracted the language of the people on Mars and has a knowledge of all life in the universe. He could recite by heart the histories of the world as far back as 150,000 years and knew the beginning and ending of all things. Having traveled the world over, W.D. Farad Muhammad saw the black man and woman of America as the people fitting the description of the lost sheep. A people stolen from their land, stripped of their language, their culture, their religion, and even their names, reduced to nothing, and then shaped and formed by the slave makers. Giving them their names as a form of branding, they took on the identity of the slave masters, becoming lost in the American culture. There are no Africans named Jones, Johnson, Culpeper, Overstreet, Green, or Brown. He admitted that when he arrived in America, he first went to Los Angeles, thinking that it was code for the Lost Angels. One very outstanding scripture written in code is Matthew chapter 24, verses 27 and 28. What makes it so outstanding is, 1, these are the words of Jesus describing the coming of the Son of Man, not himself. 2, they state what he would find. And 3, where he would find it. According to this scripture, the Son of Man will be coming from the east to the west. The carcass represents the black man and woman of America who are mentally and spiritually dead, and the eagle is the symbol of America. So according to the scripture, the Son of Man will be coming to America to a people considered mentally and spiritually dead, blind, deaf, dumb, and lepers, a despised and rejected people. And there are no other people on the planet that fits this description better than the black man and woman in America. Another very outstanding subject that Mr. Farad Muhammad taught regarding the coming of the Son of Man is that he would be coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Mr. Farad Muhammad taught that the cloud is the mother plane, a human-made planet that is 1/2 mile by 1/2 mile in size, a city in the sky. Ezekiel had a vision of this great wheel in the sky. It is also mentioned in the Revelations as the New Jerusalem, a great city in the sky. Mr. W.F. Muhammad says that he is behind the designing of this present-day mother of planes, stating that it was built in the Nipponese Isles, the islands of Japan, and that the price was staggering. It was made of steel unknown to this world. The mother plane has 1,500 baby planes that will be used in the destruction of the present world of wickedness and the building of the kingdom of righteousness. They're all manned by original black men of a higher civilization, and Mr. W. Farad Muhammad is in charge of it all. One very interesting point is that in a recent U.S. congressional hearing, an ex-government official was asked when the first sightings were reported. He stated in the 1930s, the same years that Mr. W. Farad Muhammad made himself known.
Has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial, otherwise unexplained forms of intelligence? And if so, when do you think this first occurred?
I like to use the term non-human. I don't like to denote origin. Keeps the aperture open, both scientifically. Right. Certainly, like I've discussed publicly previously, 1930s.
Okay.
Elijah Muhammad wrote that in the 1930s, Canadian newspapers reported that they saw the wheel, the mother plane. It came down out of the sky. They admitted that it looked like a great city and that something came down from it. It appeared to be a tube, but the tube-like thing went back up again. Mr. Farad Muhammad taught that after 6 months to a year, the mother plane comes into the gravity of the earth. It takes on oxygen and hydrogen in order to permit it to stay out of the earth's gravity until it needs refueling again. Mr. Farad Muhammad gave a very profound breakdown of this mother of plains, also called Ezekiel's Wheel and the New Jerusalem, supported by scripture and media accounts. As well, his breakdown of the carcass and the ego, the carcass being the mentally and spiritually dead black man and woman in America, and the ego represents America. In closing, one of the most clear and profound scriptures used by Mr. W. Farad Muhammad to identify the black man and woman as the chosen people of God, his lost sheep, is Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, which says that Abraham's seed would be strangers in a strange land for 400 years. And after that 400 years, God would deliver them into their greatness. There are no other people fitting this description other than the black man and woman in America, stolen from Africa and made slaves in America. Along with this scripture is Abraham's prayer in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, the cow, wherein Abraham asks Allah to raise one up from amongst his seed that would be strangers in a strange land, one that would teach them the book, the Bible, and the wisdom, the Holy Quran, and purify them. This prayer by Abraham may help in the understanding why Mr. Farad Muhammad taught so much from the Bible, a book that he lovingly called a poison book, because he understood how it had been used to contaminate the minds of his people. But his mission was to awaken the dry bones in the valley and bring them together again. He would use the same poison, but in proper doses, to bring a people who have been scattered mentally, spiritually, and physically back together again. So he set out to raise one up from amongst them that would begin the purification of Abraham's seed, the process of resurrection, and the squaring up of the planet for the establishment of God's kingdom. This is mentioned in the Revelations under the 144,000 first fruit. Mr. Farad Muhammad taught that Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam, teaching that 144 in mathematics represents a perfect square. The job of the first fruit is to square up the world, as 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9, the number of months for human gestation. The first fruits will bring about the birth of a nation of righteous men and women. It is said that Mr. Farad Muhammad would allow the people to pick their teachers, but one particular day he asked if he could pick. The people agreed, and he chose Elijah, whom he had taught personally, face to face for 3 years and 4 months. Upon his departure, he told Elijah that he would not need him anymore. Elijah said that he would. Mr. Farad Muhammad ensured Elijah that he would be watching over him. He did not ask for money. He came selling silks and teaching wisdom that would lead to one of the most progressive movements in America, cleaning up a people who had been despised and rejected by the world, all at the hands of a man with a 4th grade education from the 1800s.